We are still following breaking news out of northern Idaho. Right now, 2 are dead following a shooting in Coeur d'Alene in the Idaho Panhandle. Local authorities say multiple firefighters were reportedly shot while responding to a brush fire. There is a hunt for an active shooter. In the last hour, Idaho Governor Brad Little said the shooting was, quote, a heinous direct assault on our brave firefighters, and calls for the people of Idaho to stay clear from the area to allow law enforcement and firefighters to do their jobs. The sheriff said if they do not neutralize the shooter or shooters quickly, this could be a multi-day effort. I want to bring back in MSNBC contributor and retired ATF special agent in charge, Jim Kavanagh. Jim, thanks for sticking with us. The prospect of a multi-day effort, multi-day search here, not comforting, I imagine, to many at home. Can you talk us through the kind of work law enforcement investigators must be doing on the ground right now to make sure the area is as safe as possible as soon as possible, Jim?
Well, they're massing their forces. You know, the state troopers are coming in, the federal agents, ATF and FBI are be coming in, marshals, U.S. Marshals, and of course the sheriff and the city police in Coeur d'Alene and the surrounding counties are all going to be geared up, activating their SWAT and SRT teams, which is synonymous, and they'll be gathering their crews so they can search. If this was a brush fire set in a rural area and the sniper's laying in wait for the firefighters, you know, he must have had a plan to be able to egress the area. And so he may be, you know, have some skills in that, in being able to, you know, travel in the brush and shoot from there. So he may be a little bit adept at that. So they're going to have to gather their forces, which I'm sure they've been doing all afternoon. They've had a few hours to do that. They're going to have the air assets up, and they're going to have the infrared radar tonight once darkfall sets to be looking at anybody who could be on foot still in the area. They really need to catch the guy quickly because he's setting an ambush like that and shooting probably with a rifle. It's a very dangerous situation in northern Idaho at the moment. Mm-hmm.
And we are getting word, Jim, from Attorney General Pam Bondi as well as Dan Bongino, the director of the FBI. I'll read Pam Bondi's tweet, Thank you to our incredible FBI agents on the ground assisting local authorities in Idaho. We are praying for all. FBI assets are headed to the scene in Coeur d'Alene to provide tactical and operational support. It is an active scene. Curious, Jim, for your thoughts about the fact that the FBI has been quickly deployed and what that means for the investigation. I'm not familiar with that part of Idaho in terms of where the nearest FBI office is being mobilized from, or resources from the nearest FBI office are being mobilized from. But how quickly would they be able to get to a scene? I'm not sure if you're familiar with it as well, but how quickly do you think they'd be able to get to the scene, and what's the significance of them being now activated?
Well, all the federal agencies have offices in Boise. So FBI, ATF, United States Marshals, who are all part of the Department of Justice, will all be being deployed from the Boise office. And some of them will also have a small contingent in Coeur d'Alene. Coeur d'Alene is a great community of people. I mean, we've had agents working up there for years. But we've had trouble in that region from neo-Nazis, I mean, going back 40 years. Now, it's not the majority of the people. It's just a small group, but they kind of hijacked the part up there. I'm sorry. And that kind of, you know, has been a stronghold for the white supremacist groups over the years. We used to have the Christian Identity Church, run by Richard Butler's home was up there. The Order, the neo-Nazi group called the Order was up there, based up there. And we had a lot of problems and a lot of cases from ATF and FBI up there against neo-Nazis who would, launch out across the country and do violent crimes, bombings, and using their firearms and so forth. So that's been a hotbed of that. But it's not really, like I say, you got to take it in perspective. Right. It's only a small group. There's a great community up there, and the people were all very helpful to us. And all the agents up there trying to put that down as well. And they don't want to be recognized for that. But it's just a historical fact that there's been some anti-government sentiment heavy in that area leaning toward white supremacy. Now, that doesn't mean that this case is tied to that. This could be anything at all. This could be someone who's fired by a department or a city who's seeking revenge, or somebody with a mental health problem. It could be a lot of things. So,
yeah. Yeah, I feel like you're just giving us a threat assessment.
How quickly they'll be deployed.
Yeah, you're giving us just a lay of the land of the various threat assessments that may exist up in that area. But to your point, we do not know. We have no indication whatsoever as to the motivations or even the identity of this shooter at this moment. But I'm sure, as you were saying, when the FBI is doing threat assessments of certain regions and areas in this country, you're saying that is one that is of a concern for them.
Right. I mean, the area is well known to all of us in the federal law enforcement service because we've had so much activity up there. We all have offices there, Boise, in Coeur d'Alene. There's plenty of agents around there. They'll come out of the surrounding states. Billings, Montana, will have offices, Helena, Montana. There's all agents in all those cities from all the agencies in the Department of Justice that are law enforcement are going to come. So you'll probably have some Homeland Security support as well. So you're going to have a lot of federal support, but you're going to have this critical, too, is the Idaho State Troopers. I mean, these guys live there. They own that place. They are the major force, and they're going to be bringing in their assets very strong on this. And, of course, the local sheriff and Coeur d'Alene police. So they're going to have lots of troops there to be able to deal with this activity. But whenever you're dealing with, like, sniper attacks, they're tough cases. I mean, I was a deputy commander on a DC sniper. I worked some other sniper cases as well, and they are tough because the shooter's going from a distance. There's not close contact with the victims often, and the victim is not connected directly to the sniper often when it's a, random killing like in the DC case. So you don't have this connection to make the investigation come together. It's a much more difficult case, and you have to bring in thousands of agents, really, and hundreds of agents if you can't get the thing solved real quick. It takes a lot of forces on the ground to try to root him out. If he can go back to his home and lay low, it may be difficult to find him right away. And, then he can launch another day. So it doesn't have to be necessarily that the attack is constantly ongoing. We don't know that. And so the danger is he's going to attack again right away, the next day, or is he going to go home, hide out, or go somewhere, lay low, and, basically watch the news and see if he wants to do this again.
So, Jim,
or the other possibilities, of course, that he could. I'm sorry.
I was going to say I have a related question for you. You mentioned how hard it is to find a sniper, how to track down a sniper. I believe at the press conference earlier this evening, officials said that they can't put a lot of resources on the fire itself until the threat of the sniper is neutralized. How much does that complicate these kinds of operations if there is this ongoing potential hazard to the general public unrelated to gunfire?
Yeah. Well, the leaders are going to they're going to deal with that decision as the hours unfold. And it's going to come, if that fire grows, that they're going to probably have to put some firefighting efforts on it because you can't let the thing get totally out of control. And they'll just have to deploy the firefighters with protection, which means law enforcement agents and tactical teams, like we've done over the years in cities during civil disturbances. Firefighters. I remember back from being a young kid in Newark when my dad was a fireman. The fire trucks would respond, and with them is the city police and the state police to escort them to fight the fire because they're being shot at while they're trying to fight the fire. So they have to have, an escort of law enforcement. And it may be that as well. And we've seen that in other, civil disturbances throughout the years. But it may be that they'll have to do that. I mean, they'll have to make decisions like that as the hours unfold, because you can't just stand back and say we're not going to fight the fire at all. Depends on the area, of course, and what's going to burn and what homes are in danger and how you can protect the firemen. But I'm sure they'll come up with a feasible plan to be able to do that, to get the firefighters and get the water there and, slow these fires down while they're doing the manhunt. But it is a complicated leadership and command challenge for sure.
I just want to clarify that we do not know how many snipers or other potential targets, suspects, law enforcement is looking for at this point. Joining us now is Rob D'Amico, former FBI supervisor and former member of the FBI's hostage rescue team. Rob, thanks so much for joining us. How common is it that firefighters would be a target in an ambush like this?
We haven't seen it in a while. I haven't heard of it. And it's one of those things that the firefighters always, the heroes, especially lately with the police officers. And I have not heard since, Jim had talked about in the old days when firefighters in some of the cities were getting fired upon when they were fighting fires, especially the wildfires, because they're kind of like local heroes out there risking their lives to save, property and people. So I have not heard of it lately. It was surprising when I first heard it. And I was trying to understand what the motivation would be. Is it authority figures? Is it something that happened? But digging that out, it's not important right now. Now just getting everyone safe, trying to neutralize the shooter, or in fact could be potentially more than one shooter.
But Rob, on that point, Jim just spelled out for us the history in this area of extremist activity, a small but serious white supremacist movement in the area. Would local law enforcement be familiar with who these people are? Would that be an important part of whatever investigatory work they're doing right now to see if there's a connection between those known movements and individuals in the area and at least the bit that we know has transpired tonight?
Yeah, I mean, there are groups up there. They're kind of known for it, but it's also a place where people that don't want to be around people go to. But local law enforcement do know their constituents and who's around, and they know these groups, and they have communications with most of them. It's one thing to understand it. They may, be looking now what we call sources, trying to, call people and say, who could be doing this. There may be something that has led them to think it's somebody, understanding that there may have been rumors out there before. Or some previous threats made against, authority figures or even firefighters, that they can now start saying, okay, these weren't just, people talking, they may have taken action. But the local sheriff, again, and local law enforcement do know the people up there, and they understand who they are, and they've been dealing with them years and years. So I don't think it's going to come as a surprise, probably. But again, firming it up is always the hard part.
So let's talk about the terrain right now, Rob, in terms of what assets would potentially come in handy. I mean, you'd think perhaps, and I see some helicopters there, that's why I was asking, aerial overhead would give you a lot of visibility and move much faster. But obviously with the trees and the shrubs, and if this person or people that were involved in this potential ambush, they would be difficult to spot from above with all the foliage around them.
Yeah, it's going to take what we call, ground-air coordination, people on the ground directing the people in the aircraft to where they think they hear something. And then, again, the cameras on those helicopters and probably people in those helicopters looking for movement. Any type of air, you're going to have drones, you're going to have helicopters, because the key is to try to get the shooters to not be able to move freely and then move tactical teams to flank them or come from behind, especially with terrain in between them, so that the subjects can't see the tactical teams coming up, because you want them to be out of line of sight so that they surprise the shooter. Again, it's a military tactic, but it's also a law enforcement tactical team tactic of, again, pinning someone down and then moving elements around behind them or to the side in order to get them. But they have to get it done before dark, because these people probably, or this person probably knows the area very well. If darkness falls, being able to move up on him from a tactical team is extremely dangerous. This person can run and not fear it. Law enforcement can't just run. They have to move with purpose. They have to look for cover to move between cover, and it's really tough to make up ground. If it gets dark, these people can probably move much further away, and that's when the sheriff said that it could be a multi-day thing, because if they get out of that area during darkness, now you have an entire huge area that they can move. They could have vehicles, they could have ATVs or motorcycles stored somewhere and get on them. This is probably a planned out endeavor. I think it probably came with, they called in on the fire, maybe even started the fire, right, and then had like this ambush set up, and they also have the ability to withdraw and cover and other vehicles possibly to get out of that area. So they really are trying to do something before daylight, before nighttime falls. But when nighttime falls, though, you do have other advantages: thermal imagery, you have night vision that they could have, but most likely law enforcement has much better.
How do you, if in fact this was a potential ambush, and an ambush was laid for these firefighters to walk into, how does that change the way the rest of this manhunt plays out, where this potential suspect, or maybe multiple suspects involved in this, may have other ambushes laying for these first responders as well as law enforcement that begins this manhunt? How does that change the calculation of those people on the ground who are now searching for shooter/shooters?
Yeah, it changes a lot, because if they went to the plan to do this, they did it on the time that they wanted to do it. The planning went into it. They could have fallback positions. They could have booby traps up. They could have stores of locations, caves or hiding places. They could have vehicle stage. So again, if they in fact did an ambush, they picked the time that they wanted to do it. If they started the fire, even more so, to get them up there. If they did it, if they'd been planning it and they wanted to do it when the fire started, this one happened, it's a little bit different. But if they went and started the fire, made the call, had the ambush, everything is on their timeline. So everything beyond that is also probably part of the plan. I'd start worrying about booby traps. I'd start worrying about, like you said, other ambush positions later on. They get you to chase them in a certain area, and that's just to draw you into, say, a funnel that then they can have shots on, especially if it's one or two. I mean, if it's more than one, if there's two, one person can be moving while the other one covers them. So as the tactical teams are moving close to them, that other second person can fire on them. Again, it's just unbelievable the possibilities that could be out there if it is more than one, and if they planned it.